ACC football may not have any pride anymore, but thanks to outgoing Commissioner John Swofford, they've increased their revenue by adding Notre Dame as a fully participating team in 2020 that is eligible to win the ACC championship. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down the ACC, the first of the Power 5 conferences to announce its scheduling format and its actual schedule. The dates have yet to be announced, but the ACC has released the opponents for all, not 14 teams in the ACC, but Notre Dame makes a 15th team in the ACC. So let's get this straight. No divisions, no coastal, no Atlantic for 2020. Notre Dame added for 15 teams, so you're just going to see when you look at the ACC standings, one long line of 15 teams. Top two teams play in the ACC championship game, a la what they do in the Big 12, where number one plays number two. Okay. The scheduling difficulty is easy to decipher because of the power of Clemson. So think about this. We've got 15 teams. They play 10 games. Therefore, each team is missing 4 teams. That's it. Only 4 teams missed off of everyone's schedule. So the first indicator of who plays the easiest schedule is who doesn't have to play Clemson. Notre Dame, at least entering this season, stay with me, North Carolina, Miami fans in particular, Notre Dame entering the season, to me, is clearly the second best team, and then you go to that Miami, North Carolina tier that could be joined by Louisville and Florida State possibly. But right now, as it stands, Clemson is the clear number 1, Notre Dame the clear number 2. Then you've got Miami, North Carolina as talented rosters along with Louisville and Florida State. Then it's a mishmash of possibly Virginia Tech leading the pack after that. Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Boston College at the bottom. So who doesn't play Clemson? This is key because it's basically an automatic loss. Not playing Clemson, Duke, Louisville, NC State. Those 3 teams will not compete for the ACC championship game. So that's inconsequential. But the 4th team that does not play Clemson is North Carolina. So that is a scheduling advantage for the Tar Heels and Mac Brown. They do not play Clemson. Of course, the Heels were the team that took Clemson to the 2-point conversion in 2019 in Clemson's undefeated season 21-20. So what could be the game of the year in the ACC outside of Clemson Notre Dame with the addition of the Irish would most people would agree to be a Clemson-North Carolina matchup. We're deprived of that. So North Carolina is the best team that does not have to play Clemson. North Carolina State does not play Clemson or Notre Dame. They've got the easiest schedule. North Carolina State does not play Clemson or Notre Dame. They're the only team in the conference that does not play the 2 best teams. All right. Miami, Virginia, Virginia Tech. Those 3 teams out of the contenders do not play Notre Dame. That's key as well. All right. In terms of what teams get stuck with the toughest schedules, it's pretty easy to determine that Florida State and Wake Forest have the 2 most difficult schedules. Here's why. They're the only 2 teams in the ACC that play Clemson, Notre Dame, North Carolina, and Miami. Florida State and Wake Forest have to play the 4 best teams projected in the conference. Of course, the non-conference is wiped out in terms of rivalries with the SEC. The ACC announced this just a couple days ago that they would leave the 1-game open non-conference, and the speculation made sense that they would play the SEC rivalry games. Kentucky, Louisville, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida, Florida State, and Clemson and South Carolina. But those games are wiped out due to the decision on Thursday by the SEC to play no non-conference games. So who will the ACC play for that 1 game? Well, it's going to be difficult to schedule because they're making a restriction that they've already announced that they will not play any out-of-state games. So each school in the ACC will play an in-state game, as I understand it. So this is going to be difficult to schedule. The ACC only has 1 conference left out of the Power 5 to play non-conference games against, and that is, of course, the Big 12. The Big 12 presidents will meet on Monday to determine their scheduling format, and that's to be announced next week. Here's the deal for the ACC. 10 games in conference. Notre Dame is playing for a championship. 1 game out of conference. That's going to be so intriguing to see what the ACC does with the Big 12 possibility out there and also the Group of 5. But the SEC has been taken away in terms of all those rivalry games, plus some really good matchups with Auburn and North Carolina in particular. Also, Mississippi State and NC State is off the board. Here is my quick look 10-game prediction record for each team in the ACC, and it makes sense. So anytime you do predictions for a league, amateurs out there, keep in mind that the league has to play 500 football when all the records are totaled. So this is what it's going to look like. Not the final predictions, but here it is. Clemson 9-1. Notre Dame and North Carolina 8-2. Miami and Virginia Tech go 7-3. Louisville at 6-4. Florida State with that ridiculously difficult schedule 5-5. Pitt 5-5. Wake Forest, like Florida State, have to play the 4 best teams in the conference. Wake goes 4-6, as does Virginia. I've got North Carolina State and Duke at 3-7. Georgia Tech, BC, and Syracuse all win 2 games and lose 8. My thoughts on the ACC, considering the inclusion of Notre Dame, I like what they've done here. It's going to be fascinating to see how they schedule the one non-conference game. Again, I would power play Notre Dame to have to join the league permanently, but this makes sense for this season in regards to maintaining as much revenue as possible, bringing Notre Dame in. That's going to make for 10 attractive games for the league, in addition to Notre Dame possibly playing for a conference championship. My thoughts about the ACC right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Need to hear from you now.